firstly, we are going to discuss about a tool called PyFisher phishing tool, where you can create your own social media fake social media links and try to steal victims' username and passwords. And after that, we are going to discuss various checklists that can be used to in order to find IDOR vulnerabilities. And later we are going to discuss about how to automate finding of XSS and SQL injection attacks. Uh, and next, one of the researcher, has shared an article in Medium where he found unexpected IDOR. So we are going to discuss that, and after that we are going to discuss about how to exploit, how to identify client-side desync attacks and how to exploit it, where you can get some bounties from there. And after that, we'll be discussing about uh, uh, by using various checklist and methods, you can basically bypass the admin panels which you have found at the time of reconnaissance. And after that, we are going to discuss about how to easily find out the directory listing vulnerabilities by using one of the online scanner tool. So yeah, and after that, we are going to discuss about the second method on how to automate your XSS findings in your target website, and a few bug bounty tips as will be discussed in this video. And also, one of the researchers has also found a Django debug mode enabled vulnerability, which has led to sensitive PI information leak. So we'll discuss how he found it and what is his approach and all. So after that, we are going to discuss about finding of hidden parameters in an API endpoint by using a tool, and how can you leverage it to cross-site scripting attacks or SQL injection attacks. And in the last, we're going to discuss about you know it how to uh, exploit user enumeration vulnerabilities, even though user enumeration vulnerability is set as out of scope in the target scope in HackerOne or Bugcrowd. So you can basically use a tool called name to mail. So by using this, you can basically show the actual impact of user enumeration vulnerability to the target uh, program owners, and you can basically get a bounty from there as well. Yeah, so let's get into the topic. The first topic is PyFisher phishing tool. So basically, what is PyFisher? So this is a tool which can be used to generate, phishing links for all social media applications like Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Gmail, Outlook, Yahoo, etc., etc. And you can basically use this tool locally, download and install and run it locally, or you can also use the Docker containers of PyFisher. And yeah, let's get into the demo. So first you need to uh, go to the PyFisher uh, GitHub profile, GitHub page. So here it is. So so basically, you need to follow these steps, in order to install or download or install this particular tool, or else you can use the Docker containers of this. So I have already installed this, the Docker of PyFisher. So let's use that. So here the tool is running now. So here are the other, various options where you can insert in this particular tool. So if you have localhost auth token which is available, if yes, you have the token, then insert it, and if no, then make it as no. Okay, let's take it as yes. Please type the access to. So if you don't have the access token, it will generate the key automatically, the token automatically, and it will give you the list of options. So if you want to use you try if you want to face this, let's say PayPal. So let's select the option 14. Okay, so try enter 14, and if you want to generate a OTP after inserting the username and password to the victim, so you can mark it as yes. I don't want the next page to be redirected like OTP and all, so I just click on no. So enter shadow URL. Please enter if you want to skip it. So and after the redirection URL, if you want to give the any redirection URL, you can give over here, or else you can skip it. So now the various fake links will be generated by PyFisher, where you can use it uh, in the while to exploit uh, that particular victim. So you want to try the custom link? No, skip it. Okay. So if you can, as you can see, there are two fake links that are being created over here. So you can use either of this. So I'm gonna use this particular fake link. So copy it and paste it in the browser. Click on enter. So we will now get redirected to the PayPal page. So like which looks exactly same like the PayPal page over here. So let's enter some sample email address. Let's say it's the victim actual PayPal account which is being entered by the victim, and some password of the PayPal. So if you want to click on login, so it basically redirect to the actual PayPal page again. So but here it will again ask for the email and all, but this is not our controllable page, so we will not get any uh, logs of it. But before that URL, which was the fake link, we'll get all the username and password which in our logs, as you can see over here. So the PayFisher PayPal username which I have entered is tester@yahoo.com, and the password which I have entered is security@1990. So all this will get logged in this attacker controlled domain and all. So yeah, and also the various information have also been retrieved by the attacker, the victim's IP, what OS is using, what file for what browser he's being trying to access PayPal, which country, which state he's from, etc., etc. All this information will get to get in the attacker controlled server logs. Yeah. So that's all about the PyFisher. You can explore and make use of it in your real time. So this Yashwant Singh has written a beautiful write up in Medium. So make sure to go through that write up and explore more options in PyFisher. Yeah, and let's get into the next topic, which is IDOT checklist. So this was written by Azem. So in the Medium. So let's get into the checklist now. So in IDOT, so we have various ways to bypass a particular ID parameter. Whenever you see an ID parameter in any endpoint, so you can basically try all these checklists in order to bypass the authorization and try to access other users' information. Okay, so first you need to check try to decode the ID value, whatever, if it is a alphanumeric value, try to decode it. If the try identify whether it is being used MD5 or base64, etc., in order to encode this particular ID value. If it is MD5, decode this ID value using MD5 and replace ID a number with another ID number, another user's ID number, and encrypt the ID, other user's ID number with MD5, again use it, place it over here and send the request to the server. You will be successfully get the other user's sensitive data in your response. So the next method is would be like changing HTTP request methods. So if that particular endpoint is using get method, while getting the victim user's information, try to use post method, and if you will you might get 200 OK response and get other users information as well. So if it is using post method, then try to change it to get method and look out for the responses. And the third method would be try replacing parameters. Here you can use param analyzer. There's a burp extension, and which basically enumerates all the parameter names in that particular target application. So here you can see instead of album underscore ID and the album ID, and you can use in the same endpoint you can use another parameter name and parameter value. So instead of album ID, you are using account ID and the account ID value. So you might get surprised, like you might get another user's information in the response. And the next method would be try path traversing on the API endpoints, like giving the ID value over here and // and the victim ID over here. You might bypass the authorization check over there, and check request content type header, like try if the application is using application/JSON, try application/XML and send it to the server. If the server responds 200 OK, then try changing the ID value with XML content type. So, and the next method would be use numeric ID values instead of alphanumeric ID values. So there might in many applications there are two ways of defining a user. So the user ID and the ID are both the same. Like these two are the user ID values. So this is the encrypted user ID value. This is the unencrypted user ID value. So try to identify numeric ID value by going through all the endpoints in the application, and try to replace it with numeric ID value instead of alphanumeric ID value. And the next step would be try fuzzing API path name, like this is the actual path name over here. You are getting 401 unauthorized. So instead of all small letters, try to insert capital A and send a request. You might get 200 OK, or all capital letters by fuzzing all the path name API endpoint over here. And try sending wildcard instead of an ID. So instead of an user ID over here, try to insert star mark over here, which is a wildcard. So which might give you a result of all the users in that particular organization. So you can also use Google Docs to search all the endpoints having ID parameter values, which the search engine may have already indexed. So use tools like Arjun, Paraminer, to brute force the hidden parameters in an endpoint. So proactively add parameters to the endpoint. Like you can see over here, like there is no parameter over here in this endpoint. You are getting 200 OK. So proactively give user ID value over here and the ID parameter. So you might get the user ID information instead of this messages and all. So you can try fuzzing like this as well. So the next step would be try adding multi parameters to the endpoint. Like you can basically try to use a parameter position at an endpoint. So like you're adding dual parameter parameters and with dual parameter values over here, and you might get juicy information in the response. So next step would be use endpoint file extensions, like this is actual endpoint. So you try adding .json, .xml, .config, .txt and so on. So you might get the user information in this format by bypassing the authorization checks. So next we are going to discuss about the next method. So try using JSON parameter pollution. So try to insert dual parameters in the JSON request body, and you might get this victim's information instead of your information. So you can also bypass the authorization check by dual parameters in a JSON request body, and wrap ID parameter value within a JSON object. So where this is our actual JSON request parameters which are there in this format. So you have just wrapped all this value in an array in the JSON object. So you might get bypassed and get the information of the victim. And try changing API versions, which in most of the applications in a bug bounty or in a real-time applications. So most of the endpoints basically uses its versions like v1, v2, v3, etc., etc. So you try to, if the application is using v3 version, right? So try to change it to v1 and send the request to the server. You might bypass the authorization check and get the response, or else try to change it to v2, etc., etc. So these are the various IDOR checklist in order to bypass the authorization check on the server side and get victims information, sensitive information in the responses.